We record. You're the best.
Awesome. You said when I first got involved. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to share a little bit when
Um,
you first became acquainted, yeah.
sure. When I worked at the YWCA, we were looking for ways to be more trauma informed and more supportive of our survivors. And so we were able to bring a window between worlds through some grant funding to that program. And then when I left there and moved on to counseling partners, I could see that the kids that I was working with and the families I was working with really needed another way to express, their feelings. And so I talked to my boss and showed her the workshops. I'd already been through the training, and so really it was just getting permission to bring it to our program and then find a way for our DCS to be able to accept it as a referral, so I could get paid for for doing the case management. And so I'm able to do a one-on-one case management, and then also with a different referral, I'm able to do a support group. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, we're super excited. And you also, if you want to share a little bit, because I think folks will be interested in how you're able to provide art as a support while kids are waiting for therapy to come through. And that's part of like providing a bridge until they get those services.
Yes, I the referrals I'm getting right now are the kids that are struggling with self-regulation and control of their feelings. And so we are meeting and talking about their feelings and processing and, coloring and doing all the things. And then as soon as they get a therapist, I encourage them to take the art that they've created and talk to the therapist about the deeper stuff because I'm not a therapist. And I make sure they know that.
Yes, yeah. And I love that you're able to provide, that space that's someone that's a safe person to listen and to be there to support while they're waiting to get those services. We like to say at AWBW, right? Like you don't have to be a therapist to be therapeutic. And I have no doubt that just with the healing presence that I know you carry, that that's something that those kids are experiencing with you. Can you share a little bit about, you kind of touched on this, maybe a need or a challenge that you've noticed with youth in care, and maybe how art has provided a helpful tool or support to meet that need?
Sure. Part of the reason why I created the workshop that I did is because kids, everybody has big feelings. Everybody has, everybody gets angry. But when you are going through trauma or you're going through a separation from the only family that you have lots of feelings that you're not sure how to process. And so I really wanted to find a way more than just words and making them talk to me. Find a way for them to be able to express how they're feeling and being able to get it out however that looks. So not necessarily just writing it out, but maybe we like today I even met with a kid who had a speech delay. And so we tore up paper and glued it on a canvas and expressed our, feelings that way because he was struggling with telling me how he felt. And so I think, any sort of way that we can use something else as a way to communicate our feelings that helps them be able to process that and not necessarily put all the attention on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's so helpful. And I think too about the conversations we've had, and maybe you can share with folks around like how it can be something real simple where maybe, you just get out some art supplies that you have, as well as building up towards some of these other curriculum that you've used with the youth that you serve. Do you want to say anything more around that, or just kind of what you've seen with the engagement with the art supplies, especially?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So yeah, I come in and I make myself comfortable at their house or if they're coming to my office, and then we usually start out by coloring something. And so I'm coloring something, they're coloring something. Or if it's an older child who can read and write, then we're making an attitude journal, which is one of the workshops. And so I tell them, everybody is grateful and makes gratitude journals, but this is a journal of their own that they can create and then keep and write whatever they want to in that journal and express their feelings. And they can bring it back the next week if they want, and we can talk about it, or they just, keep it for themselves. But it really is making them comfortable if we're sitting on their floor and the dog is laying by us and they're using colored pencils, or like somebody mentioned, if there's paint and we're at the dining room table and, we're just we're just creating whatever they feel best. And then when they feel more comfortable and they're sharing more, I bring the tougher topics.
Yeah. Thanks so much. It's great to know how easy and accessible it is, as well as how you can kind of scaffold up to some of those other curriculum that we have. Yeah.
Mhm.
For folks who may be listening and they're inspired by what you're sharing or interested and maybe they want to bring art to their work or community, what's maybe one tip you have for someone who might like to bring art to support the work that they do?
I would say do it. It makes your life a lot easier. You're doing less talking and less, prodding and prying, and they're able to express themselves however that looks, even if it's not going through your specific training, but just encouraging them to draw a picture or this angry monster is the one that's feeling angry. I'm not angry, but the monster is. And so telling me what the monster feels and how they're responding to that. I think just start small. It does not have to be huge. You don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be creative. It really truly is, another way to express feelings and just big conversations.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I know your art workshop in the toolkit, which folks got a little bit of a glimpse of, is all about that, right? Like that there's this iceberg, and we might feel, we might be just showing the tip of what's at the top of the iceberg above the water, but below that are all these other feelings. And so your art workshop is all about helping young people maybe connect with what's under the surface that they're not
Hmm.
showing or sharing, and what's maybe one feeling they want to bring to a safe person or trusted adult in their lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else before we invite the group to ask you a couple questions? Anything I didn't ask about, or anything else you want to share that was wonderful and so helpful?
No, I don't think so. You asked all
Um,
the right questions.
we practiced a bit for this, so thank you all. I welcome if we'll have time for maybe a couple folks if they want to raise their hand. Perfect. I see Karen. Please do go ahead and ask your question for Erica. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Karen Marie. I really thank you so much for doing that work. It's important to do it. And yeah, you said exactly what I needed to hear. So the ending of an art activity for a respite care worker has been like a rough transition for me because I don't know what to say at the end if we've had like 2 days or 3 days of doing art and then they're going to placement next. And the case managers will often just show up at random times. It's not necessarily a scheduled thing. And so I'm wondering if there's some way to put that child at ease about the completion and completing the work that they did in the house, the artwork that they did in the house, the activities that they did when they're moving on. Like, and it's kind of rushed and in the cases that I've had so far, like they're on their way to treatment. So they've been here specifically, it's like an honor that they took the time to make a lot of art, right? It really is, given what was going on. So I don't know how to end it. I don't know how to handle like the emotional impact of doing artwork for a period of time, you know?
Yeah, I think I mean my opinion would be their artwork is their expression. So I think whatever you can say to give them permission to continue, creating whatever that looks like, even if you give them a package of colored pencils and a notebook, like to their next destination. We created this sacred space here. You can continue to create that sacred space, as you move forward. And then I think your closure could just be that you hope that you've planted that seed and you know that you may not see the growth right now, but the growth will be later on and they'll remember the art that they made, at your house as they're processing and going through what they need to go through the next steps of their life.
So just reassuring them
Hmm. Hmm.
okay. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah.
And I saw another hand. I see your hand, Helena, and I saw MS or M Sneed. Did you still want to ask a question? You're welcome to if you want to.
Well, the thing is that I took this this training because I wanted to get away from the trauma and the stress from what I do every day. So I don't deal with the younger kids except if I work on the weekend. And I've been with the county and I have been dealing with STRTPs and those kids. And so I'm kind of just at a place where how do you make something good happen out of all of this? And how do I transform myself from being involved with all the tragedy and make a change because I'm burnt out with all of the trauma? And so just listening to it was a good thing. I had some ideas about purchasing some stuff when I do work on the weekend, offering it. But it's like I don't get to know the kids. I don't see the kids. And these kids are not wanting to do anything. So how do I save who I can? Like when I work on the weekends, if it's young kids that I'm around and they're being detained, then I'll just take them to the park and let them enjoy a day of having fun. And so I just feel like my life is changing too. And thank you guys for showing me a side that I don't see and let me know that there is some good to this because I just feel like the system is broke. And so thank you.
Yeah, I think checking in with yourself and seeing where your boundaries are, making sure that you're not taking on too much or taking on their own trauma. And maybe it's something that, you are creating as they're creating. And so you're able to process. We've all been through, something traumatic or something that's been hard. And sometimes it comes out better when you least expect it, or even grief. Grief shows up in all sorts of different ways, and so being able to create and do that on your own. I used to joke when I was the child advocate that I'd have to keep all of my energy for the end of the day because that's when the support groups were. And so as everybody is clocking out and going home, I'm like ramping up for dance freeze and, all of the games and like snacks and all the kids that just got, back from school and, all of that. And so I think that's also something that I have to remember is the environment I'm going into, the rambunctious 4-year-old today where we were tearing up paper and he used my entire Elmer's glue on one canvas to somebody who's not going to want to talk to me, and so I can't come in with my speaker and my loud music and saying, hey, what's up, like you work with your audience. And so choosing to go to the park on a day where they need to run off energy is a great idea. You're not forcing them to do anything. You're not making them sit down and be quiet. You're allowing them to work off their energy. And I think it's the same thing if you were to decide to stay inside. Who wants to do this puzzle with me and let's flip it over and color it and then try to put it together, just like whatever creative thing you can do where they're like, oh, I never thought about doing that before. And now you've taken 10 minutes of their time where they're thinking about something else.
Well, thank you guys. And I have a coloring book and I think I'm going to start coloring. Just do some more stuff for me to
Hmm.
maybe just open up to release a lot of the tragedy and stress and disappointments that
Yeah,
I
it's
feel
hard.
for these kids that I'm like, we're not saving them. So thank you guys, and I'm enjoying this time.
Thank you. And Helena, I welcome you to be our last hand, and then we'll turn to probably the chat. That's great.
No, Jessica has a question, so I'll
Oh,
let her go.
thank you. Thanks
Okay.
so much.
So it's not a question. That's why I was going to go after you. I wanted to say something to M. Sneed. I don't want to say your name wrong, and I'm so sorry. The one who just spoke. But you had talked about going to the park and doing things with kids, and there's an activity called Absorb and Release. Yes, there's worksheets to go with it. However, if you look at it, it's something that you can do like a physical sponge and bubbles and soap and do that project that doesn't have to be like a physical art activity or a worksheet, but you also can use that for yourself. absorb and release. You absorb what you take from them, but then you also have to release it. And so taking that time for yourself too would be a really great activity. It's the first thing that came to my mind when I heard you talking. And so hopefully that's something you can pull. I love the self-guided workshops. They are my go-to. So I just wanted to put that out there. I didn't want to not give that, because I think absorb and release would be amazing for her, because she takes on so much and she can also let it all go. I mean, the name says it all, so it's great. That was all I had.
Is that something to look up?
Yes. So it is in their self-guided workshops. So there is a section where they have all of their self-guided workshops listed together, and absorb and release is in there. So there's one you can, give you, what I love is it gives you all the instructions, everything that goes with it. They even provide a worksheet if you want to use a worksheet, but then you can also do it with like a sponge and bubbles and things like that. And so you can still work with the kids and do a fun activity that's tactile and give them skill sets that they can use. We went through a really hard time, and now we're going to let it go and release it and have something fun. And so it's just a thought.
Thank you.
Of course.
Helena, we totally have time for your question. If you want to ask it, you're welcome to. Or comment, or yeah.
Yeah, no, my question was for Ericka, because I wanted to know what she found to be her best activities for working with youth in care, specifically probably older kids, because we do struggle from time to time when we ask, you want to do an activity? They say no, but are there some that they might find more engaging?
That's a great question. If it's one-on-one, I usually am sitting closer to them, and then I just kind of bring it out and say, how fun would this be? But the attitude journal is something, I just got cheap, notebooks on Amazon, and we do collages on the outside of them, and then they can write whatever they want on the inside. I think the give the permission canvas, giving myself permission, is something that if you bring paint, or if you bring something, they really like the Sharpie markers that look like paint. And that's helpful too, because then you don't have to bring the water and the paintbrushes and the paper towel, all the things. And they also like, I did a whole 2 weeks of Shrinkadinks where we made sun catchers, and I was over the Shrinkadinks by the end of the 2 weeks, but they all loved it. And even, the teens were the ones that were like, I'm hanging this up on my front door, and I'm gonna, they were really excited. Actually, somebody yesterday just said, can you believe that it's her aunt that she's living with? And she's like, can you believe my aunt bought this wreath and she took my sun catcher down? I was like, I'm so sorry.
Oh, thank you so very much.
But she was joking, but they really take ownership of the stuff that, that kind of stuff, and they're releasing, whatever it is that's bugging them in the moment.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your wonderful questions. These have been fantastic and so helpful for the group. And Ericka, thank you for answering them and for just sharing so much wisdom and information with us. This has been really, really helpful. I welcome if you have anything else you want to share to close us out. And I'm also going to welcome if folks want to put anything in the chat around maybe where they're at this point in the event, what is feeling like a word for how they're feeling or what they're taking away at this moment from the experience so far, so we can kind of bring all that good energy back into the main room. And do know also we're available for any questions that maybe you didn't get a chance to ask. You can absolutely email us after the event and stick around after for our training benefits showcase, and I'll put an email address you can email as well. And so, yes, continuation of the wonderful partnership. So grateful for all of our partners, and just getting to be here together today. And it just feels like such a helpful exploration of this field. I know, Ericka, you've really opened my eyes to the tremendous labor and care and heart and work that goes into supporting a young person on their journey in foster care and supporting the people who are in their circles of support. I just am moved every day of doing this work with learning about this community, which is such an incredible one. So welcome if you want to share anything, and also welcome for others to share final takeaways.
Sure. I would, I'd like to say that I'm very humbled being considered the expert in this, but I'm also very open to brainstorming or answering other questions in the future. I love a window between worlds, and I love, what I do for my position. And so, feel free to reach out, or, Rachel has permission to share my email or whatever, if you want to have future conversations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I see, thank you for folks who have shared in the chat. Melanie, doing work I mean, you do incredible work in the incarcerated setting. And I see Daniel. Oh, so great to have you here. Just awarded a grant to serve Native youth at the intersections of foster care and family violence. Excited to implement this toolkit and incorporate your thoughts and stories in our work. Thank you. Oh my gosh, yeah. So glad to have you here, and that's wonderful. You got grant funding to do that work. Um, Thank you all. This has been wonderful. I am going to stop the recording before I forget.